Shudo, thank you so much. Turning to Iraq now, where ISIS is continuing its deadly rampage. More than 100 people have been killed in several attacks over the last 48 hours. This as a sitting U.S. congressman and Marine is blasting President Obama, the leader of his own party, for his ISIS strategy, or lack thereof, and blaming the White House in some ways for the death of his friend. Congressman Seth Moulton tweeted this photo of himself with his Iraqi counterpart who was killed in an ISIS attack last week. Moulton added, quote, "Just to be clear and to contradict the White House, this is a combat mission in Iraq." And joining me now live is Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton, who serves on the Armed Services Committee and deployed to Iraq 4 times while in the Marine Corps. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. So you blame the Obama administration's failed ISIS policy for the death of your Iraqi comrade, who you described as your, quote, closest friend. Why?
He was my closest friend in the Iraqi army, and the bottom line is that we have a military strategy to defeat ISIS, but we don't have any long-term political strategy to ensure the peace. And that's why we find ourselves back in Iraq again today, refighting the same battles that I and my fellow Marines and soldiers fought just 8 or 10 years ago.
And what needs to change, sir?
We need to have a clear mission for the troops, a clear end game, a clear goal that they can achieve, and then a strategy to maintain the peace once we defeat this terrorist group. Because, look, we already fought these same battles against al-Qaeda, but then when we pulled out of Iraq so quickly, and not just pulling out the troops, I'm talking about pulling out the diplomats, the people who were working in the Prime Minister's office, in the ministries, the Iraqi government just went off the rails and as a result created this political vacuum that ISIS came in to occupy. We cannot keep repeating this mistake in Iraq, going back again and again.
Now, there are more than 4,000 U.S. personnel, military personnel in Iraq right now, but the White House argues this is not a combat mission. Do you think that the Obama administration is misleading the American public?
That's just simply not true. This absolutely is a combat mission. In 2004, I had an advisory mission as a Marine with my platoon in Iraq. We were advisors to an Iraqi unit, and when that Iraqi unit started to get overrun, we went to their assistance, and it started the Battle of Najaf, which was some of the fiercest fighting of the war until that time. So there's a very fine line between an advisory mission and full-fledged combat, and it's very clear from the death of the Navy SEAL just last week that this is absolutely a combat mission.
And why do you think the White House is pursuing the strategy that they're pursuing, calling it an advisory mission, not a combat mission, not pursuing the line of attack that you're suggesting they need to in terms of a clear strategy with an end game? Why?
I don't know. I mean, some would say that this is trying to do war on the cheap, just like the Bush administration when they got us involved in the first place. Let's not forget that we wouldn't be in this mess at all if George Bush hadn't invaded Iraq with faulty intelligence back in 2003. But this is a president who promised to get us out of Iraq and then promised to use the tools of diplomacy to prevent wars from happening, and that just hasn't happened. You know, if you think about what happened when ISIS swept into Iraq from Syria, they didn't just defeat the Iraqi army. The Iraqi army put their weapons down and went home because they'd lost faith in their government. And yet our solution, our strategy, is to train Iraqi troops. Well, you don't fix Iraqi politics by training Iraqi troops. And Iraqi politics are broken. That's the fundamental problem in Iraq that we need to fix.
Congressman Seth Moulton, thank you so much, and our deepest condolences on the loss of your friend.
Thank you, Jake.